Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to go over my must grow seeds for the 2025 garden season, and I've divided them all by groups. I'm definitely growing more than what I'm going to show you, but these are my favorites from each of these groups. First up, my favorite thing to grow is hot peppers and sweet peppers. So hot peppers first, the Craig's Grande jalapeno pepper. I cannot grow enough jalapeno peppers. Sugar Rush Peach, which ended up being a super tall plant in my garden, and it shaded out other plants, so I need to plant that accordingly away from other plants this year. Buena Mulatto, which is the most beautiful purple pepper ever and adds so much color and brightness to a harvest basket. And then cayenne peppers, a classic, but something I'm going back to fill up my spice drawer and use in the kitchen. For sweet peppers, I grow quite a lot of really normal bell peppers, California Wonder, things like that. But in addition to that, I am growing purple lilac bell peppers, again, adding that color factor. Yellow Monster giant bell peppers did so well for me last year, so this year I started them earlier in the season and I'm really excited about that. Big Jim, again, looking for volume and size. So there you go. And then my last one, can't pronounce it, but it's a paprika pepper. And this made such a deep flavored paprika powder and developed quite a few peppers last year. Again, this year I'm starting them earlier, and I think a bigger plant overall will really do well for my garden and produce more this year. Next up, tomatoes. This year I'm focusing on two things: production Roma style tomatoes that are really good for sauces, and color slicers. So not just your classic red necessarily. I'm growing many more varieties than just these, but these are some standouts. I'm trying the Roma V. Again, Roma style, good for production and storage. And then the Abe Lincoln, while it is kind of a slicer, I think this will be a really large tomato, adding volume to some of my sauces and the canning recipes that I want to try this year. And then one is a snacking, a champagne bubbles, which was one of my favorite cherry tomatoes that I've ever grown, and I just really like the flavor of this one. This one's really a garden snack for me. And then a pineapple pole tomato, which just means indeterminate. This one and the Dr. Witchies pretty much goes hand in hand, but those are two that I'm very excited about. Next, herbs. I'm pretty basic when it comes to herbs. Oregano. These are mostly going in my grow tower, my green stalk. So oregano will have quite a few pockets there. Chives and garlic chives are going all over the garden this year. I only had one, maybe two bunches last year. Not enough in my opinion. I'm growing regular boring basil, but I always plant a bunch of purple basil. So this one is called the Purple Petra. There's quite a few varieties of purple ones. That one just did well for me last year. And then this one is the lettuce leaf basil, which looks like it could be amazing for wraps and just larger things other than just making seasonings, although I will definitely dehydrate those and make them into seasonings, adding just a different type of flavor profile to regular dried basil. Next up is greens. I don't really like growing greens in my garden all that much because I have a lot of bugs and caterpillars that eat them pretty quick, and it gets very warm in Central Virginia very quickly, so things tend to bolt pretty quickly. But the two that are my go-to is this Paris Island lettuce. I really like the flavor of this lettuce, and I like just a more substantial romaine type lettuce. That's a little bulkier than maybe a butter lettuce or something that's a little bit more flimsy. And then kales, I never go wrong with, but this one's a dwarf blue curled kale. I think that will be a good basic one. Next, this one kind of stands by itself, but onions, which I've never grown before. This is all an experiment this year. I started them indoors and probably started them later than I should. So this is an experiment that could go really right or really wrong. Next year, I'll really be more, I guess, consistent with watering, starting them much earlier, taking care of them indoor for longer before putting them outside and really giving them the full time that they need to grow. Onions take forever to grow. Next, let's do cucumbers, squash gourds, things like that. I'm doing a burpless beauty cucumber. I am not doing any pickles. I'm not a fan of pickles, neither is anyone in my family. So this one's kind of a slicer. That burpless really just means it doesn't get bitter, which I think will be nice for my area. And then loofah gourds, which I started indoors. Loofahs also take very, very, very long to grow, but also to mature. And when they mature and turn brown and crispy on the plant, you can make sponges out of them. And I'd really like to get one that dries on the plant because they take forever to germinate, forever to really burst up and start to climb on a trellis. So starting them indoors has solved that issue already. They're very large plants already, and I have 2 of them. I think that will be plenty for me. They really take over a trellis. And then lastly, a very large, substantial squash. I believe this one is going to be pest resistant to pests that are pretty typical in my area. But this is an experiment. I really don't grow squash, but I think this is a really good testament to my area, the pests that are affected, and my own skill building and being able to grow something that's very large and good for storage. Next, I have peas and beans. For peas, which is a very, very early season crop for me, I have 2 that are my favorites. And then a couple other that are smaller varieties. The 2 really big ones that I do want to talk about today is the sugar magnolia, which is a beautiful purple potted pea, and very, very nice for garden snacks. The flowers are so pretty and just a beautiful pop of color. This vine really gets tall. It says it could be 6 to 7 feet tall. It fills up my trellises so early in the season before things like melons and tomatoes really start growing tall. So this really fills in my garden really early in the season and gets me in the garden mood. This one's called the tall telephone. Similar vibes, just green. Very, very tall plant, and I'm hoping just fills in a lot of my other trellises before other warmer crops go on. I have more dwarf varieties and like the sugar daddy and very normal snap peas in my garden right now that are just starting to germinate, but nothing really stand out. Pretty typical, you can find anywhere. I have 2 pole beans that I'm trying for the first time this year that I'll likely use as shelling peas, which is my first time doing a shelling pea. This one is called the Kurzer's Calico Traveler. I picked up this one as well as this one, which is the Autumn Zebra Pole, simply for their color. I mean, that's just an insanely gorgeous bean. I don't really know what I'm going to do with these. I just hope that they grow well in my area, and this is all an experiment, but those colors were too hard to say no to. And then I have 2 pole beans that are my favorites, my go-to that I do grow every year. This one's the ball hide, and this one is the Kentucky pole bean. This one's a classic. I think a lot of people, especially in kind of my geographic area, grow these. They do exceptionally well. These are much bigger pods that aren't my favorite for eating. However, I use these as dog treats. I have 2 large breeds, and my dogs will go shopping in my garden and literally go out and pull these off their vines, and then I split them in half and each my dog gets a half a bean, and that's a treat, essentially free for me and awesome for my dogs. So that's how we use those. And lastly, kind of a mishmash of things are just fruits that I'm growing. I'm growing a couple melon types, but the Kajari melon is the only one that produced for me last year. I had a cantaloupe melon that didn't really do well, and I think I just, as an experiment, was throwing them in the soil and just didn't really take care of them as well as I could have. But this one was great, and I would really like to try that again, and I did a little more research on how to take care of melon plants. Next, I have Alexandria strawberries. These go in my grow tower, and they're very, very small strawberries. However, they're packed with flavor, and they're so fun to go searching for. So while I'd like to have another variety that's larger, that's more kind of grocery store size strawberries, these ones just taste like a smoothie in every single bite, and I just really enjoy these ones. So I'm going to start more of those plants this year and then stick them in my grow tower again. And then lastly, I have a huckleberry, which is completely new to me, but Baker Creek had this on their website and showcased them being baked in pies, and I was sold. I was so excited. So completely new to me. These germinated way better than I thought I would. So I have too many plants, but I'm definitely gonna have a couple in my garden and see how they do. And this will be my first time even trying a huckleberry, but the color and the fun of it and trying something new enticed me. So that's a new addition to the garden this year. Lastly, I have flowers. So I always grow about 4 or 5 varieties every single year consistently. I just flip the colors. So some years I will do a lot of orange and yellow, and then some years I'll let those recede, of course, and then I'll try to add something else in. So it's really easy to have too many flower seeds. And I really like growing the flowers. They fill in gaps of my garden really well and bring in pollinators, of course. But it's just fun. So this year, I'm going for a darker vibe in my garden, while I will still have certainly pops of pinks and oranges. Last year I really got inspired to do kind of a goth garden in one of my garden beds, and I'm scrapping that because I need more space for my peppers because I have a lot of peppers this year. So instead I'm going to tuck these all into corners, but you'll see this kind of theme coming through. The first one that I want to talk about is Cosmos, the Black Magic and Rubenza, which are very dark, gorgeous colored cosmos. Cosmos reseed quite easily. Last year I grew some orange ones that were so beautiful, so I hope those come back. This will add some nice contrast to those types of colors though, and these are really nice in jars and picked flowers. Next, Bachelor's Button. This one was one of my first flowers that I've ever grown in my garden, and they just grow so easily. They grow quite tall, which is really nice because they can really add some height difference in the garden. This one I've grown before, and I really love this color. It's not always the easiest thing to find an easy to grow blue flower, so this one was exciting. And then this color variety is new to me, but again, dark gothy vibes. So those will pair really nice together, I think. Another one I grow every year, but this year I'm adding new colors, is a zinnia. These are very pink, fun, bright colors. This one is the Purple Prince and the Oklahoma Salmon. Just some really beautiful full zinnias. These really fill up a nice bouquet quite easily and fill gaps where a Bachelor's Button is quite a smaller flower, so it's just nice to have that variety. Next is marigolds. I underestimated marigolds when I first started gardening. I thought they were boring because you could find them in giant packs in big box stores constantly and for relatively cheap. But marigolds are really, really great companion plants. They go well in tomato beds. They fill up space so nicely. And what I learned is from seed, the bushes of flowers will get ginormous. Last year I had a wall of marigolds, and when I planted the started plants from Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever box store I got them from, they stayed small. They did not do as well. They bloomed and had blooms throughout the season, but they were the teeniest, puniest little plants. Mine from seed got ginormous, had a whole life of its own, so I will only ever start them from seed. This year I have a lemon drop variety, which is just a bright yellow, bushy kind of plant. And then I saved seeds from my marigolds last year. It's so easy to save seeds from these flowers. And I thought, I'm not really that good at saving seeds. I don't have the experience doing that. So I'll just toss a bunch in a plastic bag and test them next year. We'll just see how it goes. And they're all germinating. So I have like 5 of these little plastic bags of marigold seeds. I will never have to grow or buy new ones again. This was just a classic kind of orangey yellow variety, but I have a lifetime supply now. And then finally, one of my favorite flowers ever to grow is a snapdragon. These just come back every year bigger and more beautiful than the previous year, and this year I'm adding a couple more varieties. This one is the bronze dragon, goth, purple, dark, really dark leaves, which is why I bought it. Incredible coloring there. The Black Prince, which is a purple variety, but with green leaves. And then this one is the Bazaar Mix. And I had, I think, a couple of flowers that looked kind of speckled like this from a seed pack before, from, I think it was Baker Creek as well. And I thought it was so cool. Some speckled flowers are just a fun addition that add a lot of character and color qualities to the garden. So that's all my seed varieties that I'm most excited for. I grow a ton in my space, my backyard garden, and far more varieties than what I've just talked about today. I'm so excited to grow them all. I will share and update you with all of these and more, and walk through my garden when spring comes. In just about a month, we'll start planting all these started plants out into the garden. I'm very excited about it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a good one. Thank you. Bye.